Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, folks, the coverage on the Stephan Sterns hearing, we covered a little. Did a short show this afternoon, Professor Mike and I, and we got a little bit nervous about the judge. He's going to take 2 months to rule on whether or not Stephan Sterns voluntarily turned over his cell phone to Detective Myra Taggler. And our feelings are, as former police who have gotten consent searches before, is that it's totally legit. But the seriousness that this takes on is that this could really hurt this case. If this judge suppresses the evidence, i.e. the cell phone and the Google Cloud, the iCloud, where all those bad photos were on, it could really affect this case. And you see the thumbnail there, Fruits of the Poisonous Tree. And that goes right from Adam and Eve, right? The fruits of the poisonous tree. Except in the world of criminal justice, what it means is that evidence that is obtained illegally will be suppressed. And the law that guides that is the fruits of the poisonous tree. That evidence that was obtained or collected illegally will be suppressed by the court. But our position is here, and we don't matter because we're not the one wearing the black robes, is that the police did exactly what they were trained to do. And in this instance, a lot of people that I see in the chat saying, oh, the police screwed up. No, they did not. And another word that I want everyone to learn is called exigency. Exigent circumstances, emergency circumstances. Did anyone know at the time that Detective Myra Taggler asked Stephan Sterns if she could look into his phone? Did anyone know if Madeline was alive? At that point, she was just missing, wasn't she? So that makes this an exigent circumstance, that finding her alive was much more important. And getting a search warrant and processing a search warrant is a timely thing, can take 6, 8, 10 hours to get the search warrant. So Detective Myra Taggler asked for permission. And we'll play where Stephan Sterns clearly says, with no strings attached to it, oh, yes, you can go through my phone, So we believe that the police did the correct thing. Anyway, folks, we're going to get into that. We're going to get much deeper. You're going to actually see Stephan Sterns testify. And we're going to go into what that means also. That's another Pandora's box. So, folks, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your loved ones. Hold on to your service dog, your cup of coffee. Hold on to your opinion. Hold on to your thoughts. Because you're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone. The police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we're into the home stretch for NBA and NHL playoffs. There's more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from Major League Baseball, National Hockey League, and UFC, BetOnline remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. Joining me tonight, and I want to dive right into this because we have so much to cover. Is retired NYPD Sergeant, professor at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut, attorney, all-around good guy. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary.
Bill, good evening. Good to see you. Thank you for having me on.
You know, Mike, when we did that short little show this afternoon, it was really just a little bit of a tease because there's so much to cover here, so much to understand. And my position, and I believe your position, is that the police totally acted correctly. They got a consent search. They did the consent search. They found some bad stuff, and they presented it. Now this judge can either rule in their favor, which I believe. I think he may cut the baby in half, as they say. I think he may give us some and not allow other stuff. What do you think?
Bill, this is a really important decision. And, we see it from the police officer point of view. We see it from law enforcement. But he has to show that he did not give his consent, that he was coerced or felt pressured to. And the prosecution is trying to show that he knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently, gave consent because, look at the totality of the circumstances. And Myra Taggler went into that. How many officers were there at the scene when she asked him what time it was? Who was questioning him? Where was she standing? How was she dressed? Was anybody blocking him? Was he free to go? Yes. All of these things, which would show that there was not a coercive atmosphere when she asked. So the surrounding the ask was this dynamic. And so long as he was not pressured into saying yes, that's all that matters. So therefore, I think it's fairly clear cut. You think it's fairly clear cut because we've done this. However, because of how important this one singular decision is to this case and also to the homicide case that he has starting in September, the judge is going to be, he's going to dot every single I, cross every single T. He's going to wonder how many angels can dance on the head of a pin before he comes up with his decision. I think it'll be a favorable decision to the state, but you never know.
Mike, I have video of him testifying now, and I didn't originally know that he testified. Now, what that does, it opens up a Pandora's box for the defense. Now he's fair game. Now the prosecution can call him up on the stand. They can eviscerate this guy. And I question why. Well, look, I think what the defense was trying to do was they were trying to hit a home run in the hearing and get this evidence thrown out. But if they fail, they're going to regret the day that they put him on the stand, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, if he had, this was like, I always say the 99-yard touchdown pass with like 1 second on the clock. He had to get up there. He had to say something because the defense, when you raise this issue, since you're the moving party, you actually have to bear the burden of proving that you have a legitimate argument before the judge and that you're entitled to have your motion to suppress granted. After that point, if it looks like you have a prima facie case made, it is now up for the prosecutor to rebut that. And that's why he testified. And then to rebut that, Detective Myra Taggler testified. But the thing is, if he loses this motion and the pictures come in, he's cooked. I think he's cooked. And he could refuse to testify if he's called as a prosecution witness, but you may see another desperate, 99-yard pass with 1 second on the clock on the defense. He may get up there again, but if he gets up there during the trial, he can be up there for hours and hours and hours being cross-examined by the prosecutor, and that would destroy his case.
100%. I'm going to play this. This includes Stephan Sterns' testimony yesterday in court.
At the Osceola County Courthouse for us.
Mike, the defense does not want jurors to see what police found on this guy's cell phone, right?
That's right, Matt. Authorities say they found incriminating evidence on Stephan Sterns' cell phone, but the defense argues that law enforcement improperly seized that phone from Sterns and then illegally searched it. And they say for that reason, any evidence that was found on Sterns's phone should be inadmissible at trial.
During your contact with law enforcement, did they seize or take an item from you?
Yes, they did.
What item was that?
That would be my cell phone.
Sitting in court, Stephan Sterns was questioned by his own attorney as the defense tries to get a key piece of evidence against him thrown out. This police video captured last year shows Sterns setting up a brand new cell phone.
Hi, I'm Siri. Hi, I'm Siri.
His original cell phone was seized by law enforcement the day after 13-year-old Madeline Soto was reported missing. Authorities say that phone and Sterns' Google account contained images of Sterns sexually assaulting the teen.
And what was your understanding as to what they were going to do with it?
They were just going to check my Google Maps and check to see if I was logged into Google, and that was it. That was all I agreed to.
Sterns
He just made that up. I don't know if you heard. He just made that up because we will play back what Detective Myra Taggler asked him, and nowhere does he say anything about his Google Maps. I thought they were just going to look at my Google Maps. He didn't say anything about that. Let me replay that. And he just made it up right on the spot.
And check to see if I was logged into Google, and that was it. That was all I agreed to.
Sterns claims he gave law enforcement only limited consent to search his phone. The defense argues that anything authorities found on the device beyond that limited search should not be shown to a jury. But prosecutors say an audio recording of Sterns confirms he voluntarily handed over his phone to detectives and gave them permission to examine everything.
Your phone. I told you that I was going to hold on to it and that we would like to download your phone, right?
Okay.
Is this something that I have your consent to do, or do I need to get a search warrant for your phone?
It should be fine.
You're okay with us going through your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have the PIN to your phone?
And Sterns
It doesn't get any more voluntary. You know, on the Day Show, we told you in lieu of a warrant to do something consensually, the acronym is VIC, Victor Ida King, voluntarily, intelligently, and knowingly. As long as those three things exist, it should be all well and good. It should be fine. Now, after the fact, when he realizes, I tried to do a factory reset, when he realizes that didn't work and all the bad pictures are on there, now he's trying to reinvent history. Mike.
Bill, he did not hesitate whatsoever. He did not mention objectively any sort of limitations that he wanted on the search, like it's limited to my pictures, it's limited to my text message, it's limited to my phone call history, nothing. So it was an unlimited consent. So therefore, he was, he did that very willingly because he wanted to let the police officers think that, he's just an innocent person trying to help them out. But B, he also had the confidence that because he thought he properly reset his factory phone, that everything was gone and that there was no way anybody could see those pictures. So he went in there thinking, I've got this. Now he sits there on the stand and testifies, and he tells him, it tells the judge, well, that was a limited consent to only Google Maps. No, I don't think so, buddy. I don't think so.
Let's play the rest of this.
Sterns did give detectives that PIN number so they could unlock his phone. But according to the defense, at the time of that interview, Sterns was reportedly under the influence of anxiety medication. They say he had not eaten in about a day and was being interviewed in what they describe as cold weather with not wearing warm clothing, and feel that he was coerced into giving that limited consent. The judge has not yet decided on whether that evidence from Sterns' cell phone will be admissible at trial. Matt and Lisa.
Pretty vital piece of evidence there, Mike DeForest.
So, the defense starts piling on when he hadn't eaten. Sterns and that whole family took drugs just to be normal. They took about 10 different pills a day just to be normal. So, he can now, at this point now, use that as defense. These were drugs he took for anti-anxiety, to feel normal, to do whatever. He took all different types of drugs, but they weren't drugs to get high. they were drugs to make him normal. So I don't see how the defense is then also going to use that and say, oh, he didn't understand because he's all drugged up every day.
Bill, yeah, he's got the strangest affect. Even Myra Taggler said that when she first initially went to him and started talking to him, that he was very emotionless, very flat, but he was very coherent. So therefore, that shows that he actually understands what is being asked of him, that he doesn't have any problem understanding words, sentences, inquiries, that sort of thing. And the idea that, the judge may say, well, I'm sorry that you're suffering from some sort of anxiety, or that you're hungry, or that, it's kind of cold out, in February, even in Kissimmee, Florida. I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to fly. That does not make you in any more of a coercive environment than if it was a beautiful sunny day in July. No, absolutely not. But as you know, and then people do have to remember at this point, when she asked him, the search was almost 20 hours old and she hadn't been found. And we do know that children who are kidnapped don't live too long generally. And therefore, there is this exigent circumstance that is surrounding Myra's request, Detective Myra Taggler's request. So therefore, the whole thing is they're trying to get as much information as they can. At this point, they know that some of the things that he's saying doesn't add up. And so, they need to see his phone, and they have that phone. He gives them the PIN number. He does not place any sort of limits on it. I think that is fairly clearly establishing voluntary consent.
I believe so too. Terry K, thank you so much for the $25 super sticker. I really enjoy your YouTube channel. You guys are very interesting. Terry K, thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Mike, the big thing that I noticed from, we did a show in the afternoon, and then I discovered that Stephan Sterns testified. And as we said earlier, that's a gamble by the defense because he's on the stand now. Now the prosecution could put him on the stand and just rip him to shreds with all I think it's a calculated gamble that the defense took that really can backfire on them.
It's a huge gamble because, right before he gets on and starts talking and he's answering questions, the judge is only seeing the papers that his attorney has submitted, clearly well written, well argued points that he's going point to point back and forth in front of the judge with the defense, with the prosecutor. And so, you get a really fairly coherent argument from the defense. Okay, great. But then when he sits there and starts testifying, the judge for the first time hears him actually, speaking, here's his affect, here's him speaking about the consent. And that goes now is in the judge's mind. And he's going to, of course, obviously listen to the tape of Detective Taggler. And so you've got these two things here. It's a huge gamble. But he has to. It's really the only card he has to play. He's got to play this card. If he doesn't, why even go to trial? He's got to play this card. If he thinks in any way, shape, or form he could beat this case and then perhaps destroy the prosecution's case in the next trial that he's facing for the murder, he's got to do it. He's got to get up on the stand. Everything is riding on this. I think it was a huge mistake.
I agree. I think this is the exact time where the little conversation about the cell phone.
On again. Okay. So, as you guys know, they have, right? Mm-hmm. They've been going through the phone, and they noticed that there was like a lot of messages between you and can you explain to me what your relationship is between?
Yeah.
It's being censored right now, so it'll come back on.
Mostly things like, when are you going to call us? When are you going to come up here and visit? Hey, poopy head, get online. Things like that.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Your phone. I told you that I was gonna hold on to it, and that we would like to download your phone, right?
Okay.
Is this something that I have your consent to do, or do I need to get a search warrant for your phone?
It should be fine.
You're okay with us going through your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have the PIN to your phone?
42586.
Four two five eight.
Did anyone hear him giving any limitations to the police, to the detective Myra Schultz, Myra Taggler? Did anyone hear any limitations? No. But did he say on the stand that he told them he lied on the stand? He completely made that up. That can be an issue too. Stephan, I want you to listen to this tape of you being interviewed by Detective Myra Taggler when she asked you for your phone. Is there anywhere there that you just thought they were going to look at Google Maps? No, there isn't. Did you just make that up? Did you just lie? Are you going to tell the truth on that stand? You're under oath. So all of these things, he's going to get destroyed with, Mike.
Yeah, this was a huge mistake. And if he was going to testify, he should have said something like, I felt coerced because the police were surrounding me or something. But when he sits there and says, no, I told them that it was only, I only thought it was a Google search of my car or whatever. And that was at MapQuest, whatever it happened to be. By saying that, I guess he just didn't realize that, when he makes that assertion, the fact is that it's really clear on the tape. When Taggler's asking him, there is no mention of any limitations. Now, the thing is, he's now under oath. If he does testify at trial, and I don't think he will, I think he's stuck his foot in it right now because with what he did yesterday, because if he does testify at trial and tries to say something else other than that, the prosecution is going to say, well, wait a minute, weren't you under oath when you told the judge that you thought that it was a Google map request? Let's play the tape one more time, and they can play the tape for the jury. He could be on the witness stand getting sliced and diced and eviscerated for hours. This was a big mistake, and what he actually said, those spontaneous statements that, I thought it was a Google location request, that was really one of the worst things he could have said. He's not the brightest bulb in the shop.
No, not at all. Brenda Lee from the chat, he said it was okay because he thought the pics were gone forever and he was trying to look innocent. Brenda Lee, no doubt that's why he allowed it. He thought that I did a factory reset and I thought everything was gone. This guy's like just a winner. This is Detective Myra Taggler on the stand. Let's play a little bit of this here.
Myra Taggler, Maira, last name Tagler. How are you employed? The Orange County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Sheriff's Office?
9 years.
In February of 2024, what was your assignment?
I was assigned to the sex crimes unit.
Are you still assigned to that particular unit now?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been in that unit?
3 years and 2 months.
Were you working in your capacity as a detective in that unit on February 27th of 2024?
Yes.
Did you become involved in the investigation into the missing juvenile named Madeline Soto?
Yes.
How did you become involved?
I was tasked to assist the primary detective at the time, Detective Hunt, with canvassing.
About what time do you respond to assist in the investigation?
It was about 4 p.m.
And this was on February 27th?
Yes.
And where is the initial location where you responded to?
It was in Hunters Creek.
Did you respond to a residence in Hunters Creek or somewhere else?
Somewhere else.
Did you respond to the command post?
Yes.
When you get to the command post, do you learn any information regarding the investigation?
Yes.
What information do you have after leaving the command post? What information did you get?
I was advised of we have LPRs, which is tag readers, and I was advised of the direction of travel that Stephan's vehicle had traveled the day of the incident.
Were you aware on this date and time that Madeline Soto had not gone to school on February 26th?
Yes.
Were you aware that she had not been seen since the morning of February 26th?
Yes.
And the information regarding the tag reader, did law enforcement identify the tag that was on a vehicle that the defendant had access to?
Yes.
And what was some information that you got regarding the location of the defendant's vehicle on the morning of February 26th, the Monday?
He had traveled southbound 3 times on South Jungin Parkway towards Kissimmee, which was away from the direction of Madeline School.
Are all of these times early morning and late morning?
Both.
And then did you also get some information that in the afternoon, the car was traveling in and out of St. Cloud, Florida?
Yes.
Specifically, the travel on southbound South John Young Parkway, were those times consistent with what the defendant had described to law enforcement as his locations were?
They were not.
And were these, the initial time was around 8:15 in the morning?
I believe it was 8:10.
And then there was another one around 10 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
And then almost around noontime?
Yes.
Thank you. Overruled as to leading. I've got a question. The times that you just gave were for identifications of the tag through the LPR system.
And then the afternoon times of going in and out of St. Cloud, do you recall what those were?
I do not.
Did you document those times and locations in your narrative that you drafted for the
Yes.
case? Would looking at your narrative assist in helping you remember the specific times that the vehicle was traveling in and out of St. Cloud?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm approaching the witness for the record with Detective Taggler's 11-page narrative.
Thank you. I'm looking at page 4.
Does page 4 help refresh your memory as to the times that the vehicle was picked up on the tag reader going in and out of St. Cloud?
Yes.
What times was it traveling towards or into St. Cloud?
It says eastbound on US 192 and Pecan Street at 13:05 hours, and westbound on US 192 and Academy Drive at 14:23 hours.
And you were equipped with this information at the time that you responded and met with Mr. Sterns in this case?
Yes.
Were you aware as to who the last person to have seen Madeline Soto alive or have seen her was?
Yes.
Who?
Stephan Sterns.
Was that consistent throughout a lot of law enforcement interviews that were conducted?
Yes.
After you get this information and your task is to assist in the investigation, what's the next thing that you do?
Detective Acosta and I respond to Kissimmee to their residence, and we meet with Detective Hunt.
When you say their residence, are you referring to Miss Jennifer Soto and Madeline Soto's residence?
Yes.
That would be on the Santa Maria Drive.
Yes.
When you get to the address, who is there?
Detective Hunt is there. There's other patrol deputies on scene, and Jennifer and Stephan.
Is there law enforcement conversing with either Jennifer Soto or Stephan Sterns?
Not at the time.
Who is the first person that you speak with?
Detective Hunt.
Does Detective Hunt relay information that he obtained during an interview with the defendant to you?
Yes.
What information do you recall receiving prior to your interaction with the defendant?
He stated that he had spoken to Stephan and Jennifer, and to his knowledge, Madeline had not made it to school, that Stephan had dropped her off near the school, and that they were supposed to go to McDonald's, but they didn't. And then he watched her walk towards the direction of the school, and then he went home.
Did you receive at that time any information about the sleeping arrangements on February 25th of 2024, the night before?
Yes, Detective Hunt told me that Madeline and Stephan had slept together in room number 4 because Jennifer needed to get more rest that morning.
Equipped with this information, did you come into contact with Stephan Sterns?
Yes.
How did you know who was Stephan Sterns and how to find him in the area?
Detective Hunt pointed him out.
Was your encounter with Mr. Sterns audio recorded?
Yes.
As a detective, what is your uniform, for lack of a better word, when you are at work? What do you wear?
Professional attire, like I'm dressed right now.
You're not in a police uniform when you make contact with Mr. Sterns?
I am not.
How about Detective Louis Acosta?
Same, not in uniform.
Does anybody approach Mr. Sterns with you and Detective Acosta?
No.
Where is Mr. Sterns when you approach him?
We're all standing behind his vehicle.
When you say his vehicle, who are you talking about?
The Lincoln?
So the defendant's Lincoln.
Yes.
And at this point in time, is the defendant handcuffed?
He's not.
Is the defendant free to leave?
Yes.
How is his demeanor, meaning the defendant's demeanor when you're interacting with him?
He was very emotionless, but otherwise able to answer every question that we had for him.
Did the defendant, seem groggy, confused, unable to communicate with you?
He did not.
Did the defendant respond appropriately to questions that you were asking?
He did.
Would you classify his behavior towards you as cooperative?
Yes.
Can you explain to the court, I know that you indicated that you're all standing in the back of Mr. Sterns' vehicle, but can you?
What the prosecutor who's questioning her now is she's trying to sort of paint a picture that Stephan Sterns is not being threatened. He's free to leave. His demeanor, according to Detective Taggler, he's emotionless. How many people would be emotionless after what we know happened? That would seem a little bit strange, don't you think, Mike?
Yeah, people react to all kinds of tragedies in different ways. However, there are some consistencies, and to be, if you are living in a family style situation, and the girlfriend is daughter 13 years old and she's missing, and you were the last person to drop her off, to see her alive, and you dropped her off at school, I think he would be very excited to take part in the search. I'd ask, the police, what can I do? What can I help you with? He would be very, very enthusiastic to want to get out there and actually conduct a search, get in the car and drive all over the place. And I think probably the fact that he was really calm and very kind of like flat, no matter what Detective Taggler was going to talk to him about, she's looking at that saying, this is really strange. This guy is not acting the way that I've seen many other people react when their children are lost. I can't imagine if I had one of my daughters was lost at that age, I'd be beside myself. But at least he cooperated, and he was showing that he was cooperating. He willingly gave the phone over. But you're right. She was painting the picture that there was no coercion. He wasn't surrounded by a bunch of uniformed cops, glaring at him. He was free to go. He was there to give them information so that they could find poor Maddie. At this point, we're still trying to rescue Maddie from wherever she is. This was not a recovery operation after a homicide had taken place. So therefore, time is of the essence, and it's all hands on deck. And he was trying to be cooperative to them, and they were being very, civil to him. There was no animosity or butting heads either way. I think Detective Taggler did a really good job laying out the facts surrounding her questioning him and asking for the phone.
Absolutely. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell, hit the like button. That really helps us with the algorithm. If you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels. We have a YouTube channel membership with count them 5 different levels, and you could become part of the Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories family by supporting us. I'm going to go back to the detective again, hear the rest of her testimony.
Explain to the court where everybody is positioned.
Yes, I was standing on the left side of the trunk. Stephan Sterns was standing directly next to me. We were basically shoulder to shoulder. And Detective Acosta was standing closer to the wheel well on the right side and the corner of the car.
Was Mr. Sterns' path of travel impeded by either of you?
It was not.
Was Mr. Sterns free to leave?
Yes.
Did Mr. Sterns ever communicate with you either verbally or by body language or physically a desire to end the communication with you?
He did not.
At some point during your interaction with him, do you request for Mr. Sterns to take out his cell phone?
Yes.
Or to look at his cell phone?
Yes.
Can you remember where the cell phone was, where the defendant's cell phone was when you asked this question?
I do not. It was in his possession, but I don't recall where he grabbed the phone from.
Did the defendant consent to allowing you to look at his phone?
Yes.
And do you remember if Mr. Sterns' cell phone was passcoded, protected?
It was.
Who entered the passcode into the phone?
Stephan.
After Mr. Sterns entered the passcode in the phone and unlocked the phone, what did Mr. Sterns do with the phone?
He handed me the phone.
While you are holding the phone, where are you standing?
In the same position next to Stephan.
Do you hold the phone in a way to allow others to see what is on the phone?
Yes.
Where is Mr. Sterns at as you are looking at the phone?
Directly standing next to me.
And initially, the interaction and how the cell phone comes out, you bring up looking at maps in the phone.
Correct.
Are you familiar with the type of phone that the defendant had?
I am not.
Do you also inquire as to taking a picture of quote unquote your history, the defendant's history? Do you remember that?
Yes,
And that's also encompassed in the audio recorded interview.
correct.
Does the defendant ever communicate to you any limitations on what it is that you're doing?
He does not.
Does the defendant ever attempt, either verbally, physically, or in any type of way, to cease the search of the phone?
He does not.
After you look at the maps, the history, what did you see? Or what did you notice in what you saw on the phone?
I noticed that he had mentioned that he uses Google Maps for basically everything to check locations, the time places open and close. And I noticed that on his Google history, it was very minimal. There was not a lot of traveling that was consistent to what he had originally said to both Detective Acosta and I. So then after that, I went to his call history and I noticed that there was also not a lot of information on his call history.
And this was after you mentioned looking at his history.
Correct.
And during this entire time, did the defendant ever cease or withdraw his consent, either verbally or physically?
He does not.
After this initial interaction with the cell phone, do you keep the cell phone?
No.
What do you do with it?
I hand it back to Stephan.
Is it at this point that you walk away for a brief period of time?
Yes.
And do you come back?
I do.
Where Mr. Sterns and Detective Acosta are?
Yes.
Did anything about the circumstances surrounding this interaction with Mr. Sterns, either the location, the number of people, where people are standing, did any of that change?
No.
Was Mr. Sterns standing in a similar place as before you left?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sterns still free to leave and out of handcuffs?
Yes.
At approximately 7:57, do you again ask Mr. Sterns to unlock the phone?
Yes.
How does that happen? Explain that process.
He again enters the code and hands me the phone.
So at some point, she's going to find the
At
picture.
some point, do you bring up the lack of call history to the defendant?
I do.
What was the defendant's explanation?
He said he had accidentally factory reset his phone.
After your interaction with him, you knew all of that information that you had previously explained that you knew. You had an opportunity to see things on the phone and the information that you had that the phone was factory reset. What did you do?
At that point, I told him I was going to hold on to his phone.
And that was approximately at 8 p.m., 7:59, 8 p.m. on February 27th of 2024.
Correct.
After this interaction with him, did you secure anything else
No.
other than the cell phone? Did you secure anything else, or
Well, I did ask him to refrain from going back in his vehicle.
his vehicle, meaning the lean-in?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sterns able to enter and exit Jennifer Soto's vehicle during the time between your two interviews with him?
Yes.
Was he free to walk about?
Yes.
Did you or Detective Acosta remain where Mr. Sterns and Ms. Soto were?
No.
What were you doing in between your two interviews?
After speaking with Stephan Sterns the first time, Detective Acosta and I went to the front of the apartment complex to speak with management and ask them to review their surveillance.
After doing these additional tasks, do you speak to Stephan Sterns a second time?
Yes.
This is approximately 12:15 in the morning on February 28th, right?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sterns handcuffed?
He was not.
Had his movements been restricted in any way by you during your conversation?
No.
Were you wearing the same clothes that you had worn a couple hours earlier?
I was.
Who was with you when you spoke with Mr. Sterns?
Detective Acosta.
At any point in time during either of your interactions with Mr. Sterns, did you or Detective Acosta remove a firearm from your persons? Did you guys take your guns out?
No.
Did you threaten arrest or anything like that during your interactions with Mr. Sterns?
No.
This second interview that you conducted, was that also audio recorded?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sterns free to leave at the end of the interview?
Yes.
In fact, he did leave your presence as well as Nation Bay, correct?
Correct.
Was Mr. Sterns' demeanor the same or different?
It was the same.
Did you have any issue communicating with Mr. Sterns?
I did not.
Was Mr. Sterns cooperative with you?
Yes.
And during this second interview, did you explain what law enforcement was seeking to do with Mr. Sterns' phone?
I did.
What did you tell him?
I asked him we wanted to, or I told him that we wanted to download the phone to see if we can get more information from his maps. And then he said that that was fine.
Are you sure that you specifically said that you wanted to download information, specifically the maps?
Not just the maps, just any information on his phone. I told him that we wanted to get more information from his cell phone.
Do you remember using the words, we want to download your phone, we want to go through your phone?
Yes.
During this encounter with him, you request specific consent from him to be able to go through the phone, right?
Yes.
Do you explain to him in your question what is going to happen or what your alternative route to obtaining that cell phone now is?
Yes.
What did you say?
When I explained to him what we wanted to do with the cell phone, I asked him if I had his consent to download the phone or if I had to obtain a search warrant.
And did the defendant consent to downloading the phone?
Yes.
Did the defendant provide you verbally with the passcode to his phone?
He did.
At the time that this interaction happened, did you or Detective Acosta impede or restrict Mr. Sterns' movement?
We did not.
At any point in time, did Mr. Sterns seek to limit the scope of the cell phone download?
He did not.
Did you provide Mr. Sterns with your phone number or a way to get a hold of you after your interaction?
I did.
And did you give him any information as to when you would be accessible through that cell phone?
I did.
What did you tell him?
That my phone was on 24/7.
At any point in time, did Mr. Sterns reach out to you to either withdraw consent or limit the consent?
He did not.
Are you sure that he had a way to communicate with you?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because Jennifer had her cell phone with her.
Are you sure that, do you know if Mr. Sterns and Miss Soto left Venetian Bay together?
They did.
Do you know which vehicle they were in?
In Jennifer's vehicle.
So that's Detective Myra Taggler. And obviously, I think she does a good job testifying, but keep in mind that she's being interviewed by the prosecutor. So her answers are very just 2-3 word answers. I did not. Yes, she's taught, all good detectives are taught when you testify to keep your answers brief. The longer you make your answers, the more words that good defense attorneys can use against you to trip you up. So she knows that. So even though she's being interviewed by the prosecutor, she's keeping her answers very few words and right to the point. But when I hear her testimony, she did everything correctly. She asked him if she could go through his phone, if she could download it. She asked him for the PIN. He punched it in himself. That's a person that is giving permission. And he then, after the first time, gave her the PIN number so she could do it herself. So that is voluntarily, intelligently, and knowingly turning over evidence to the police and giving them permission to go through it. In my opinion, no warrant necessary. Mike.
Yeah, Bill, when, she's doing this investigation, Myra, Detective Taggler, and they're outside, they're talking to Stephan. It was really interesting. She said, yeah, he handed me the phone. He handed me the phone. When you give a phone to somebody, you're voluntarily relinquishing control over it temporarily. So therefore, and not placing any sort of restrictions on it means that you understand they're going to look into your phone. They're going to look into your phone, and they're not going to just look at your call history. And when she mentions about the call history, it's like, well, I unfortunately kind of wiped everything clean by accident. I factory reset it. He was very confident. So therefore, he really didn't have in his own mind anything to worry about. And so he didn't need, probably in his mind, to say, oh, please only look at Google Maps, because he figured it was a perfectly clean phone with nothing on it, just about nothing on it. And, too bad for him, but he handed over the phone. He punched in the actual the security code and gives her the phone. That's relinquishing control. That's consent, every which way but loose. I'm sorry. Whatever he said he was thinking, well, it doesn't seem that objectively he mentions anything. Nothing's mentioned at all by Detective Taggler or by him about limiting the scope of the search. So therefore, I think that really gives the judge a lot to build a foundation for saying, look, he voluntarily, knowingly did this. There was any sort of coercion. He was free to leave. He could walk around. He could talk to Jen, all kinds of things. Therefore, I find that this was constitutionally gotten through consent and that he knowingly and intelligently did it. That's all. I think that gives the judge a lot of ability to say that.
100%. Let me just play a little bit of this.
Your understanding, if any, as to what they were going to do with it.
They were just going to check my Google Maps and check to see if I was logged into Google, and that was it. That was all I agreed to.
Were you shown, or did they have a warrant?
He did not. He stood there and never said no. It's not the onus. The onus is not on Mr. Sterns to say no. The onus is on law enforcement to ask if they can continue.
His team hopes a judge will consider tossing this evidence from his sex crimes trial.
And the judge is expected to issue a written ruling about what evidence that was collected from Sterns' phone can and can't be used in his sex crimes trial, now set for July.
So, you know, he, as you saw, he's coming up with a different story when he testifies, that he gave the police limitations on what they could look at, and he really didn't mean to let them do whatever. But the proof is in the pudding, and there's documentary evidence, there's audio evidence, and there's video evidence of him giving permission. So I don't know why the judge would toss this evidence. I have no idea, Mike. And you see that the prosecution has gone to great pains to show, was Stephan Sterns clear-headed? Did he look like he was on drugs? Did he look confused? No, he was acting normally but unemotional, was according to Detective Taggler. So the defense is trying to use, oh, he wasn't fed. The guy's 37 years old. It's not our job to feed him, you know?
Right.
And he was cold. This is Florida. You know, he was cold. Oh, is it our job to get him a coat too? You know, he wasn't under arrest. We're not responsible for him, you know? So he was being interviewed. You know, one of the things we mentioned this afternoon, Mike, and if the judge, and this is a big if the judge throws out this evidence, this case can be really, really damaged. And we thought of one other way that they could possibly gain a conviction of Stephan Sterns without this cell phone evidence, and it's right here.
You offering him a lawyer is very weird.
I know. That was still me under the assumption that I think at one point you guys interviewed me, and when you guys showed me the picture of her, I believed the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her. I'm like, no, what if he did this stuff? Fine, but what if she's still missing out there? What if somebody took her?
Okay, Susan, what do you think?
So that is what we're talking about, is Jennifer Soto could be and may have to be the ace in the hole for the prosecution if this judge tosses any of this very, very, very important cell phone images, information, times, places. That could be the ace in the hole. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, Bill, assuming for argument's sake that he does actually just throw out the consent and say whatever they got in that phone and anything further from that, the poisoned fruit, the prosecution would be limited to, as you say, making a really terrible choice, having to put Jennifer with immunity on the stand so that she could discuss what she said to the detective there, and she could discuss it in more and further lurid detail in front of the jury. Or if there was any other independently gained evidence from some other people that had nothing to do with the phone, then they could use that. But that's why this is so important, because if the judge rules against the state in this case, you've got Jen, where you're going to have to end up compromising your case against her potentially in the future, and you only have the independent source. And so that's going to be very difficult. So that makes it really difficult for the police in this case. The case won't be over if the judge rules against the state on Sterns' motion to suppress the evidence, but it will severely limit the amount of evidence they have against him. And in this kind of case, with all that is at stake, you know, at this late date, when the investigation is completely done and there's no further evidence to unearth against him, it really puts the prosecution in a hole.
Evidence, that's for real. That's fucking happening. But I kept thinking, they're going. I don't know why I can't tell you why my brain kept thinking, no, he didn't kill her. Not that he didn't kill her, but she's still missing. She's still out there. She was taken. Yes, he's done this to her, and that's not okay. But I swore she was still, I felt in my body she was still alive. She was still out there. I told Chris to get a lawyer because I felt like you guys were chasing the wrong person.
Everybody wants to know how.
Unbelievable.
No.
Just to give, Mike and I, if you watched us through this case, we are two people that believe that Jennifer Soto should be charged also. But one of the things I wanted to mention also is that this is the first case of two cases. The essay, I'll call it the essay case because YouTube doesn't like when we say the whole word. This case, if he's found guilty, he could get life in prison. All right. But the next case, the murder of Madeline Soto, he can get the death penalty. And in fact, the state is going to go for the death penalty. Mike, these two cases are intertwined. How does this first case impact upon the death penalty case, which would be tried after the conclusion of this case?
Bill, if he gets convicted of what he's being charged with, then that is an aggravating factor. That kind of assault on a young person, that could be used as an aggravating factor if he's convicted of Madeline's death in the next case. That would be an aggravating factor that the prosecution can use, that he was already convicted of doing these terrible things to her, and before he unalived her. Let's say it that way. So therefore, this is a threshold case. If he is acquitted for any reason on these charges that he's facing right now, he still will face the murder. Oh, absolutely. But it will hurt the prosecution in the fact that they will have one less aggravating circumstance to go and use against him if he's convicted. It would put him in a much better position to look for a plea bargain from the state and maybe perhaps get a life behind bars without possibility to parole and take the death penalty off the table. So this is a really important case. And in this case, this is a really important decision because it affects everything coming past it.
Even the fruits of the poisonous tree, some of this evidence impinges upon the death penalty case.
Yeah.
Although I think that so much of the digital evidence, and for example, Stephan Sterns leaving the condo complex with Madeline in the front seat, dead.
Mm-hmm.
Him returning back with Madeline in the front passenger seat, dead.
Yeah.
Stephan Sterns caught on the cameras of a hotel parking lot, removing Madeline's body from the front seat and throwing her into the trunk. Juries don't like that, Mike.
No, that is all of that evidence is totally unrelated to what the judge is going to decide in this case. So therefore, that will worry about later. But it'll also maybe even be used in this case. So therefore, we have to look at the totality of the circumstances under which the consent was given. We think that's favorable to the prosecution. And if for any reason it's not, and the judge decides what he has to say, there's still plenty of evidence to prove at least the homicide, but it's going to hurt this case. And the worst thing that could happen is he would be acquitted in this case, because that will definitely hurt the prosecution's case in the homicide case. If he is convicted of a lesser charge, I'm not sure what other lesser charge is in Florida, because I don't know Florida law, but that still may not completely hurt the prosecution's case in the homicide case. But, you don't want to even have to deal with that. You want the conviction for the highest charge in this case.
100%. Folks, that's our coverage for tonight. We're going to stay with this case. The judge will come back with his decision on the evidence on June 30th. So he's going to take 2 months to decide. And I'm sure he's going to do a lot of research, reading a lot of case law, confer with other judges, I would think, maybe, other top legal minds, and then make his decision. Mike, your final thoughts?
Just to let the audience know that no matter what the judge decides in this case, you still have the other homicide case coming. Stephan Sterns is not going to be released. He's not going to be walking around free as a bird. So therefore, rest assured that that he will probably, no matter what the judge decides, he'll at the very least, spend the rest of his life behind bars.
100%. Folks, I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great night, and God bless everyone.
Good night.
One episode just ain't enough.